A live edition of Patriots Beat here on CLNS Media. I am Mike Kadlick, joined by Alex Barth, as always, from 98.5 The Sports Hub. We're going to take a very different route today on today's show, as you know, the whole NFL world is basically on hold, and frankly, the two of us would prefer not to really get into X's and O's of on-field play today, as life and the family of Damar Hamlin and everything that went on last night is far more important than on-field sports right now. Obviously, what happened, as I'm sure you all know, Damar Hamlin went to make a tackle last night on Monday Night Football against the Bengals. He was hit in the chest, stood up, and then collapsed. He was treated almost immediately by professionals on scene. CPR was conducted for about 9 minutes, and reportedly they got his heart beating, and they brought him. He was rushed to University of Cincinnati Trauma One Hospital. The update right now, as it currently stands, is that according to his friend Jordan Rooney, his friend and marketing representative said that his vitals are back to normal, and he was put to sleep and put on a breathing tube. So they're currently running tests, and they will provide updates. But just tragedy, Alex, struck across the NFL world, and it was a tough scene last night and into today.
Yeah, this is the kind of thing that I think, it's every player's worst nightmare, every fan's worst nightmare playing out in front of them. It's a violent game. I think we all know that going in. You know that watching the sport, but,
right.
We've seen guys with, bang up a knee, tear an ACL, broken bones. You do see some head injuries. Obviously, we had a very scary moment with Tua Tagovailoa earlier this year, but seeing something like that, I mean, when there was the first report of like CPR was kind of a like whoa moment for me. Like, oh, this isn't really like anything I've seen before. Anything where at least anything anything I've seen before. Maybe some people going back have other experiences, or in smaller settings. I don't know if you ever had anything like this happen with a teammate, but it was just pretty jarring. It's I think that for a lot of us, football is this great escape, right? You sit down for 3 hours on a Sunday or a Monday night and you kind of forget about what's going on in the world. And then the reality of life suddenly comes crashing into it. And, it reminds you kind of the risk these players take every time they step foot on the field, and that these players are people too, which I think people unfortunately forget sometimes. And, hopefully everybody is recognizing today and does a better job of recognizing moving forward. But I just hope, Damar Hamlin turns out okay. And like you said, there's a report that things are trending in the right direction. So that's always good to hear. Hope his family's holding up okay. I would say as well, I certainly hope, all the players involved, but especially T. Higgins is doing okay as well. Like, that's a football play. There's really, it's not like anybody took a cheap shot, anybody went outside the rules. Like, that is as basic a football play as that. Same contact to an extent could happen in basketball, it could happen in so I hope T. Higgins is getting the help and the support he needs today too, and he's doing okay, because I'm sure he's got a lot of thoughts swirling around his head. So that's just kind of where I've been all day, like you said off the top. And we texted this morning. I really don't feel like talking about football today.
Nope.
I don't think I can talk about football today, at least to the extent that we usually talk about football on this show. So I thought it would be good for me. I don't know how you feel. I thought it would be good for me and maybe for some of the viewers to just kind of talk about what we saw, because it's a lot to process. But we'll get into the football stuff later this week. And obviously we don't know. There's some football elements to this as they relate to the Patriots that are unknown as to how the end of the season is going to play out. And we'll have time to get into all of that later this week. But man, I just need 24 hours.
I'm with you.
And to just kind of, the thought I've kind of had all day is like, it's no secret how I feel about the game, right? I love the game itself at any level, and to think something you're this passionate about can cause this much damage to somebody is jarring.
Yeah.
So
it is.
That's kind of been how I've personally been wrestling with it. But again, of course, off the top, like, just hoping things turn out okay. Good to see the latest report, and the support as well that he's getting, and whether that's Bills players going to the hospital or the GoFundMe, which is I think up near 4 million now, right?
Yeah, it's
Um,
outstanding. I was gonna get
yeah.
into that in a second.
You kind of seeing people make make the best of a bad situation.
Yeah, it's the Damar Hamlin. He created the Chasing M's Foundation community toy drive. It was a GoFundMe page that he had set up. I'm not exactly sure when, but the original goal on it was to raise $2,500 on GoFundMe, and that has now surpassed 4.5 million as of right now. It's incredible, and so I had tweeted it out, but got Patriots players like Lawrence Guy, Brian Hoyer, Miles Bryant all made some big donations. I saw Tom Brady was in there too,
Yeah,
so
I think Tom
really,
Brady dropped like 10,000.
yeah. So I mean, you can check that out on GoFundMe. I'll have the link on you, or the link is on my Twitter as well if you guys want to check that out. But yeah, like you said, trying to make something, I guess, good out of a terrible situation. And yeah, just what you said about CPR, right? It's like, injuries in this game. It comes with it to an extent. I mean, guys tear their ACLs in this game. There's obviously the concussions, but in those circumstances, and Ryan Clark kind of put it best on ESPN. I thought they ESPN did a magnificent job. I thought last night in an impossible situation. But just
Yep.
when guys go down, right? A lot of times, they're there and they can give the thumbs up as they go off the field, and you could just see the emotions on these players last night. Realizing what was happening in real time, and it was tough. It was tough to watch, and it's something that you never want to see in this game. It's tough to see. They end up clearing the field eventually after talks of potentially playing again, and just as far as updates, as far as the scheduling goes, like you had mentioned, the league announced that they're not going to continue the game from last night this week, and that next week remains the same. For now, again, that's extremely fluid, as is this whole circumstance. But I'll just read what the NFL wrote. NFL continues to be in regular contact with the medical team caring for Hamlin and also the Bills and Bengals and the NFLPA. After speaking with both teams and NFLPA leadership, Roger Goodell informed the clubs that the game will not be resumed this week. The NFL has made no decision regarding the possible resumption of the game at a later date, and they have not made changes to Week 18, but there will be additional information as it comes. So, as fluid can be, obviously, the game on the field doesn't matter right now, but plenty of this late in the season, plenty of implications that they'll have to deal with. But that is for sure on the back burner. After what happened last night.
Yeah, and I mean, the kind of one thought I've had throughout the day is, even as these games do move on, and I don't think they're going to bag the entire season, right? So that
Right.
we're going to play football again at some point, whether it's in the next week, 2 weeks. I think the league needs to give players uh, almost similar to the COVID situation, right? I think if a
Yeah.
guy's not ready, and whether that's players on the Bills or elsewhere, because I mean, we saw players around the league tweeting last night. This isn't just players on these two teams are affected. I think that there needs to be room for players to say, "Hey, I'm not ready." Right? And
Sure.
what exactly that looks like, I don't know. Maybe it's just teams giving players the understanding to sit out. Maybe the league creates some leeway, like with COVID, where there's practice squad elevations or something.
Right.
Um, and there's guys, again, the monetary element here isn't the most important by any means, but there's guys playing for bonuses and things like that, and obviously guys want to get paid. So um, hopefully there is some leeway given from the teams, from the league, and by the way, from the public as well, to let guys do
100%.
what they need to do. Like, let's not make this a thing where, oh, so and so said he's not ready to play. Like, you put on for your team and go. No, like,
No, that's
um,
not what this is about.
yeah,
That's
like
not.
I wouldn't be surprised if we see an elevated number of retirements this offseason off of those. Right. So let's give the players the room they need. Both first and foremost, when it comes to the Bills and the Bengals, in regards to that game and the fact it's not being played this week, is I'm going to guess that came from the players. Hey, we're
Yeah.
not going to be ready, so that's good. But let's not let's give everybody beyond those two teams the room for somebody's not ready. Because I mean, Sunday's 5 days away, right?
Right.
Somebody's not ready to play a game in 5 days. I get it. That's everybody's dealing with their own. It's going to be weird watching the game on Sunday.
Right.
So I just hope, I think the league and the teams will do that just based on the initial reaction. I think there's definitely an understanding here. And I just hope that everybody, the viewing public, the fans kind of understand that this is an unprecedented situation, and it's not necessarily going to be easy for everybody to get right back out there.
Right. Well, that's again, as far as like, and I don't want to get into, and we won't really get into um, the rights and wrongs and what happened as far as the wait time last night. But you mentioned it being unprecedented. The league doesn't know, this is something that has rarely ever been dealt with. And so, 90 minutes, them waiting in the locker rooms and kind of figuring it out. I don't. I, I was hard on it last night, but thinking it over today, I don't necessarily think that was a bad thing. It was more just getting logistics in place. Like the second that Sean McDermott and Zach Taylor met on the field last night, they weren't playing that game. So, whether a ruling had to be waited to come down or not, like that game wasn't going to go on. Those guys were, you know, getting their bearings after just seeing their brother essentially get saved on the field. So it's not
Yeah.
like it was just. It's tough. I mean, it's tough to talk about even today. Just what happened and how unprecedented of a situation that was. And just to hear about his mom come down and go in the ambulance with him and get there. It's like it's so much bigger than the on field
Right.
the X's and O's of the game. What happened last night? It's awful.
And it's interesting to think about, there were some former players today talking about just how far the game has come, right? Since they were playing, whether it was guys who played in the 70s, and I know there were some guys who played with Daryl Stingley who weighed in on it. But even as recently as, what was it, in October, when the Patriots played the Lions, remember Savion Smith, the corner for the
Yeah.
Lions, got hurt. They stopped the game. I don't remember who it was. It was a member of his family they brought down to the field in the
Yep.
ambulance, and Smith luckily is okay. He's been out for the year, and he needed surgery, and he did have a back injury. He's expected to, at least try to be able to play again. So that's obviously great. But that was, how life-threatening was that at the time? I don't know. I don't know well enough medically, but it sounds like it was certainly threatening paralysis at the time. And,
Right.
they put him back. I don't even think there was a 5-minute window when that happened. I think they just started playing again. I think they just lined up and ran a play. And you remember what the Lions looked like for the rest of that game. So it was, yeah, we can nitpick on some of how it was handled last night, but I thought the players and the coaches handled it great. I thought ESPN did a great job, especially, I mean, Ryan Clark, I know everybody's talking about he was on with SVP and he did a great job, and he did, but when they went to SportsCenter at night, I don't remember who it was with, unfortunately, but he was then on with SportsCenter at night for about an hour. He did another hour after Van Pelt, and you could physically see the weight of it just on him. And
that's a guy who went through it too when he was
Right.
in Pittsburgh. He went through a situation with his sickle cell anemia. So
it was, I mean, hearing from him, again, I heard some stuff from some older Patriots players. We heard Ted Johnson talk about it this morning on Toucher and Rich. It does sound like the situation was handled differently than it might have been in the past, and for the better, right? That the right attention was paid to the situation.
Yeah. Again, like you said, it's the impossible for as far as like a broadcast goes, right? Because that's not, as far as journalism school and crisis communications go, like, you practice it, but you never think anything like this is really going to happen. And I just thought the way that Buck and Aikman and Lisa Salters on the sideline, Susie Colbert, Schefter and Booger in the booth at like during it was they did obviously the best they could and in an impossible situation, just kind of sort of trying to give some perspective. And then got ESPN Coley Harvey and Ben Baby, who were both on scene outside the hospital. I'm sure they worked all night last night into this morning, just sort of giving perspective and waiting. And they handled it with like not obviously nothing but class. They did no real speculation or anything. They just gave the facts and let it play out. And again, in a situation that you never want to be in, I thought that whole team did a great job.
I will say, so it's not um, exactly apples to apples, but when I did play-by-play on the Cape League in the
Okay.
summer of 2015, we had an incident where a player on the visiting team, we were at home, a player on the visiting team, Javon Shelby, who's second baseman from Kentucky, he got standing on top step of the dugout and got hit point blank in the face with the foul ball. Believe he was unconscious. They never needed to do CPR or anything, but it was, they'd bring an ambulance on a field and all that.
Yeah.
And um, I thought a little bit about that last night, and both in terms of just being a human being and being there, and that I think they stopped the game for, I honestly can't remember how long it was. On one
Yeah.
hand, it felt like about 5 seconds. On the other hand, it felt like about 3 hours. It was probably about 25, 30 minutes.
Yeah.
And then just as a broadcaster and kind of when ESPN was going back and forth, and the thing you do, the thing you don't do there is speculate, and you just say
Right.
what you see, not, hey, this looks like this. This is what they're doing. And it would have been really easy to speculate last night and let things get out of control. And ESPN didn't do that. So
Right.
that I think is the most important thing, because in the better off being first than right culture that we're in,
Mm-hmm.
there's a chance last night could have gotten out of hand, and it didn't. So that's
Totally.
obviously that obviously I think kind of helped keep people as calm as they could be in the
Right.
situation.
Yeah. The other thing I wanted to read is just it was an update from the Bills as well, which was earlier today. It's not necessarily new. It's the newest information we received from the team. Just that Damar Hamlin spent last night in the intensive care unit and remains there today in critical condition at the University of Cincinnati Medical Center. We're grateful and thankful for the outpouring of support we have received thus far. And they also released a statement from Damar's family, which read, "On behalf of our family, we want to express our sincere gratitude for the love and support shown to Damar during this challenging time. We're deeply moved by the prayers, kind words, and donations from fans around the country. We also want to acknowledge the dedicated first responders and healthcare professionals at the University of Cincinnati who have provided exceptional care to Damar. We feel so blessed to be part of the Buffalo Bills organization and have their support. We also want to thank Coach Taylor and the Bengals for everything they've done. Your generosity and compassion means the world to us. Please keep Damar in your prayers. We will release updates as soon as we have them. Thank you, the Hamlin family." It's tear jerking just thinking of that family even having to put together a statement like that after just being at the game to watch 6th round pick from last year, a guy who, I mean, it came out, there was a video today that just talking about what means, it was something along the lines of what means the most to him outside of football, and he mentioned his family, his mom and dad, and how he always brings situations he goes through to him and doesn't do anything without the opinions of his parents. And so just it's heartbreaking, like, right? I mean, you never want to see anybody go through something like this, no matter what. And it's tragic. The other thing, as far as what they had said about the donations in the statement, I read it as well. They basically put a disclaimer type on the Chasing M's Foundation, the toy drive, and just said that donations here, it's the only donation center for the family, and that it is for the toy drive, as I believe, as well as like anything you want to give towards this cause. So it's just tough. It's tough to talk about. It's tough to report on, and again, you just at this point you just hope for the best, and it all feels like a waiting game right now, and that's a tough situation to be in.
Yeah, yeah, and I think in terms of moving forward, I think the NFL is doing the right thing right now in terms of the
Right.
statement they gave today. Hey, we're not going to play this week. Everything else as stands now, we're not going to touch it. And I think really you can't make a decision until we get a better idea of what's going on with Damar Hamlin, and that may be tonight, that may be tomorrow, that may be Thursday. It sounds like it could, just based on the procedure,
Yeah.
reading from doctors, talking to doctors. This kind of thing, they kind of just you need to kind of let the patient be for a day or two before you can fully assess the damage.
Right.
So hopefully there is no damage, or things that he can work through and get back. And
Right.
we've heard people say, like the I can't remember the name, the soccer player in Europe from
Mm-hmm.
last year who collapsed, and he ended up coming back, and he's playing again, I believe, in Europe,
It's incredible.
elsewhere in Europe now. So it does seem like there is a path where Damar Hamlin makes a full recovery, and obviously that's what we're all pulling for. But I don't think you can make anybody think about football until you kind of know sort of what direction things are going to head. So
Right.
I know it's
And that's the
frustrating not knowing, but I think this is
yeah.
just kind of where we are right now, and this is what it's going to be. And we've all just got to kind of come together, prop ourselves up, and grit through it and pull for them. Yeah, I know that today was a tough day for me. I know
Yeah.
it was a tough day for a lot of people, and obviously you want to be thinking of Damar Hamlin first and foremost, but I'd encourage people take care of yourself as well. You need to
100%.
talk to somebody. Like that's very important on a day like this as well.
Yeah. Talk to someone, hug your loved ones. Make sure, don't leave any stone unturned in that regard because I believe Damar Hamlin himself had said it himself one time. Just you never know, what day can be your last, and it's as true as it is right now as ever. And again, like you said, as far as just everything sort of being in limbo, that's sort of where we're at. Where the Patriots are at, going into Wednesday and with this show. So we're gonna we're
And
gonna
I'll
just
just
kind of
so I would just add in terms of moving forward, the Patriots
yeah,
canceled their media availability today. It was just 3 assistant coaches that were supposed to
right,
speak. So the next thing on their schedule on the books right now is Bill Belichick speaking tomorrow at noon, and then practice, and then locker room, a basic Wednesday schedule. So all feels pretty fluid. But
right,
that's what's supposed to be next right now.
right. Yeah, I mean, again, I'll myself as well as Alex, I believe, plan to. But I'm gonna be there tomorrow
I'll be there
if
tomorrow. Assuming
that's
there's availability,
so.
I'll be there. Yeah.
Yeah, again, like you said, fluid. It might happen, it might not, but we'll see where this team's at, where the league's at. I hate even talking about it, but it's there's a lot of like season long implications as far as playoff seedings. And again, it sucks to even mention it, but that's the other element the NFL has to deal with now as well. And I'm glad that they're not jumping to any rash decisions on it and sort of just letting it play out because that's sort of what they have to do here. And that's what seems best. So do you have anything else to add before we wrap this? I know we're doing a quick hitter here, but
Yeah, I mean,
that's
I would just say I think the league can do it. It
right.
at least figuring all this out. Like obviously the circumstances are much different, but in terms of figuring all this out, I mean, they just went through this with the COVID year, right? Where
Right.
they had to get games in and they got games in, and they kind of touted that, hey, we didn't have to cancel a game, and some of what they did might have been a little irresponsible, but they did it. So they
Right.
don't really have any excuse to say that they can't work around this because we've seen them do it. They'll figure it out. I don't, maybe this game doesn't get played, but I doubt anything else besides this gets overly impacted.
Right.
But yeah, it is. I mean, it's something they got to figure out now. But look, it would have been really easy for them to say we're the NFL. We're just moving forward. That's us figuring it out. No, they
That would
put
have
football
been
aside
yeah.
when it needed to be put aside, and they deserve credit for that at least.
Yeah, I'm with you. Yeah, I heard Mike Reese today actually on Zolak and Bertrand on 98.5 just saying that it wouldn't surprise him if, Patriots and Bills isn't played on Sunday. And I had wrote about it just a little piece on, how the NFL and the Patriots are in limbo on CLNS and just how it the fact that, they came out and said the game's going to be at 1 on Sunday, but that is so like not at all set in stone right now. Like it's
No, the way
so
they worded
so
it was very much like,
yeah,
"Hey, we're not." I read that as, "Hey, we're not making any decisions on anything beyond this right now."
right, exactly.
So, I didn't read that as like, "Hey, this is still on his schedule." I think it was just like, "Hey, we're addressing this one game because we have to address it. We're
Right.
not addressing anything else. That's all for now."
Yeah.
That's kind of how I interpreted that statement personally.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, the league's in limbo. The league's sort of just in a waiting period as they should be really. This should be taken as seriously as it's being taken now. Um, as far as this show goes and where we're at, we will break down Patriots Dolphins from Sunday eventually. We're gonna be fluid as well, so maybe tomorrow, maybe double up Thursday depending on where this thing goes. But if you check us out on Twitter at Mike Kadlick and at Real Alex Barth, we'll keep you updated there. Keep stay subscribed here on Patriots Press Pass. There's plenty of other coverage as well from Andrew Callahan and Greg Bedard who did some did some
I
good
think
pieces on Damar Hamlin as well.
I
And
think
so,
Bedard has a show coming up after us, right?
okay, yeah, that might be true. So,
6 o'clock. So yeah, he'll
okay,
him and Cattles are going after us.
yeah,
I don't know. Looks like Callahan already did his show.
yeah.
So
So it's there. Check it out. You can again, we'll back at some point this week to dice this thing up. But today was absolutely not the day to do it. So you can stay updated, like I said, with us on Twitter, and we'll be back at some point. But until then, like we said, hug your loved ones. If you need to talk to someone, talk to someone. It's a tough day. People, media, NFL players across the world. So just yeah, that's sort of where it's at right now. So we'll be back. Thanks for watching, and talk to you guys soon.